pray that what I bring this morning would sit on the back of the beautiful things that you've been drawing out of us this morning. Lord, when we hear the thanksgiving that came out, how could we not be moved and rejoice in you, our God and Savior, for your faithfulness to each and every one of us, Lord. Amen. Amen. I tell you what, that I was proper loving on that Thanksgiving bit. Because actually, when you're in them bits, if you're leading the meeting, you say, we're going to invite people up. It can be a long wait before people come, honestly. So thank you for all those people who responded. And man, was that not an awesome moment. In a sense, we could have stopped it there, because for me, that was just everything where I want us to be at the end. It was that perfect wave for a surfer to come on the back of. Unfortunately, I'm not the best surfer. So let's see if I keep on the surfboard as we travel through this together. So let me tell you about Soyi Amamuchi. You might not have heard of him. He is a Japanese marine biologist. And in 1945, in August, he was in a 3-month job placement in a place called Hiroshima. And a nuclear bomb was dropped on that city. And he survived. How amazing that. He was 1.9 mile away from the epicenter, and he survived. But because it was a war going on at the time, and he went back home because there was no hospitals, obviously, to his hometown and got bandaged up. And within 3 days, he was back at work telling everybody in his workplace what had happened. Because obviously they didn't have the internet then. And nobody in his workplace believed him when he said a bomb went off and destroyed the whole city. The thing I've just missed out was actually his hometown where he was at was Nagasaki. So on 3 days later, the second nuclear bomb went off over the city where he was. And he survived. How amazing is that? What are the odds you can be in 2 cities over a 3-day period where the only 2 ever nuclear bombs that have been dropped went off and you survived? Now the question is, if you Google him, he's classed as one of the luckiest people alive. But I would think, is he the unluckiest person alive? Because wherever he goes, something goes horrendously wrong. And that's the problem with life, because depending on what you're looking at, you can decide whether that's a good thing or that's a bad thing. And we have to navigate as people through life, deciding, is there a moment of thanksgiving in this or a moment of despair? Because it's never quite as simple as that. So to help me, now again, you were all good and helped Martin, so I'm sure you're in a great place to help me. So when I say, by show of hands, I mean put your hand up, I've got a simple question for you. For you, was 2023 a good or a bad year? If it was good, put your hand up. If it was bad, put a hand up. Yeah? Let me ask this question then. For your health in 2023, your health, was it a good year? Put your hand up. For your health, was it a bad year? For this church, in your mind, was 2023 a good year or a bad year? Good year, put your hand up. Bad year, put your hand up. So I can't look at that. Right, put your hand down. Martin, put your hand down. Okay. The world events, when we look at what we see on the news, was 2023 a good year or a bad year? If you think it was a bad year, put your hand up. See, it all depends what the question is we're looking at. And the problem with life is it's never a binary question. It's actually more like a set of scales, life. and something comes into your life and, oh, we've got a new baby in the family. Oh, great, there's some good news. Oh, we've lost somebody in the family. There's bad news. Work's going well. Oh, that's good news. And we find ourselves navigating ourselves up and down, and we build a collection of good and bad stuff that dictates whether ultimately at the end of the year we decide, oh, that was a good year or that was a bad year. It is never any of them. It's always is a mixture. And we need to hold that in our attention. Psalm 95 says this, "Come, let us sing for joy to the Lord. Let's shout aloud to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before him with thanksgiving and extol him with music and song." Our lives are much more nuanced than any binary question. Some of us have walked or are walking through some very difficult things at this time or through this year. And so when we hear this invitation from David to come, let us sing for joy to the Lord, it is a hard place for us to initially move to do that because we're so overwhelmed by challenges or grief or loss. But this is not about happiness, because happiness can be lost in a moment. You can be the happiest person in the world and you get a phone call at 2 o'clock this afternoon and your world collapses around you. Happiness can be robbed off you in a moment. It's fleeting. It's gained by external stimuluses. But joy comes from within. As a Christian, we have joy that's deep within, that is not shaped by whether we feel happy or sad. But there is something in the Christian of joy that is not dictated by my circumstances. Joy comes from within. And one person's joy can feel a very difficult place for someone else. So, for example, in 2020, we all went through that period of COVID and lockdown. And in that period, for me, my father lived with me. And obviously, lockdown started in March. And just after lockdown started, he became very ill. And because of lockdown, it meant I had 28 days with him for 24 hours a day. And had some beautiful, beautiful times with him. I thank God that lockdown gave me that. But for some other people, lockdown, it was the opposite. It meant they couldn't share their moments. That's how complex things are. My celebration can be your grief. How many of us have been struggling with something or a situation, and then someone declares, look what God's done. This has happened. And it's never happened for you. And you've been waiting for years and years and years. And inside, the pain of all that waiting comes up. When someone is declaring the goodness of God, but the grief and the pain you are walking through is very real. If that hasn't happened to you, there is a good chance, if you live on planet Earth long enough, that will happen to you at some point. And I have 3 things that will help you with that. The first thing, always celebrate with the other person. Be their champion of good news. Choose to do them good despite what you emotionally feel inside. Secondly, when you're on your own with God, tell him how you feel. Be real with him. Don't pretend. Be mad. Be angry. Be upset. Be full of disappointment because you're not surprising him. You know, there's no point putting a veneer on, but be real with God, with how you're feeling, even though you're championing all these other people. And thirdly, and this is the most important bit, then let him show you his love, his care, and his compassion for you. Don't reject it. Receive it willingly. and let God meet you in your pain while you celebrate with someone else's joy. And that will do you well. That will do you very well for life. Matthew 28, verse 20 says this. Surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Despite what might be going on in your life, the promise that God has for you and me is He is with us. No matter how bleak, no matter how happy, no matter how sad, whatever it is, God is with us in that. Does this joy bring truth to your heart, Norma? Are you full of joy, Norma, because God is with you? I look at you, you give me joy when I see you on a Sunday, and it gives a wave of your flag, Norma. I love it. I love it. This is a beautiful thing every Sunday. That brings me joy. Seeing Norma celebrating the goodness of God. Isaiah 41 verse 10 says this, Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, and I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. The Lord has two encouragements for his people in that. Fear not, don't be dismayed. Okay? Don't have fear, don't be dismayed. And he gives us 5 reasons why that's something we as Christians should walk with. Firstly, he says, I am with you, for I am with you. He says, I am your God. I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you. Said another way, despite your circumstances, despite what 2023 might have thrown at you, despite what 2024 holds for us, here's some truth for us today. God is with us. God himself is our God. God will strengthen us. God will help us, and God will uphold us. These truths are the foundations of the joy in our hearts, right? This is not about happiness. This is about a sense of joy that actually isn't dictated by what I'm feeling. There's a Christian joy that's deep in us. And these are the foundations that lead us to thankfulness despite our circumstances. Whether things are good or bad, we, of all people, can be a thankful people despite what is going on. In that psalm that we read, Psalm 95, it says, let us come before him with thanksgiving and extol him with music and song. Joy in us brings us to thanksgiving. We, of all people on planet Earth, need to be a thankful people, taking every opportunity to give thanks to our God for what is happening in our lives. If you're struggling to give thanks, I want us to do something. This is a scary bit because, again, I'm going to ask people to do something they might not want to do. If you've got a mobile phone, which I would imagine there'll be quite a lot of people in this room, can you take your mobile phone out, unlock it, click on your photo album, open up a photo, and then start scrolling. You telling me you can't be thankful? Look at these people that are in your life. Look at these things that you've been doing this last year. See all these things by the goodness of God. These individuals who bring joy to you. Some of them can bring frustration. But there's so much joy captured in your photo album. Why wouldn't you be a thankful person to God? Now, let's move out of our phones together. I'll just answer that WhatsApp bijou when I've finished. So, listen. There's so many reasons, so many memories, so many people, so many situations that we, of God's people, have got an opportunity to give thanks for in 2023. Despite what went bad, there are so many things on the good scale that we can, in faith, dig into, lift up, and declare the goodness of our God this morning. The band, if you want to come up, that'd be great. I just want to focus on two things around Jesus. Just to help us see something really. Over 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, two of the most complex moments of joy, despair, sadness, and thankfulness began to unfold. And I want us to just think about this. Because we can think about one aspect of it, but we've got to understand the mix that's going on. So let's talk about the birth of Jesus. Right? The birth of Jesus. What a beautiful story. God coming to planet Earth. What we need to remember is, place yourself in Joseph's shoes. When the woman you're betrothed to comes back to you and tells you she's having a baby and you know it's not you. Do you think he went through turmoil then? What do you think's going on? Really, what's going on in him? Because we can make it all feel really nice, but actually there's a lot of stuff going on in him. And actually God had to supernaturally send an angel to give him faith for that situation. That's the complexities of this. Of a young girl and a man who aren't married with a baby in a culture that doesn't look good on them for that. That's the complexities of the birth of Jesus. The romantic idea of him traveling 80 miles to Bethlehem doesn't help you understand what that means for a woman who's about to give birth, traveling not in a 4x4 on tarmac roads, but actually going through a very rough terrain. The complexities of the joy of this moment. To find yourself giving birth when you don't actually have a nice bed and hotel to stay at. The complexities of this. The joy in it is surrounded by all sorts of stuff. And probably the one we don't like to talk about is the complexities of this birth, that a generation of under twos were wiped out in a city because Jesus came to that place. There is despair and grief amongst joy in this place. And that happens for us all in life. Dave, do you want to bring that cross? I'm in faith that this cross won't fall to pieces as Dave brings it across. Because I slightly moved it, and it nearly did. Let me tell you about this other situation, the cross. And we can look back on that. But I want you to think about what it feels like to be Mary, a mother. A mother who sees, so all you parents here, don't worry, it's not going to fall over. It is slightly broken, but hey, who isn't in this room? Eh? Mary, a mother, watching her son dragged through the streets, whipped, beaten, tortured, a baying mob taking him, and ultimately being crucified. Do you think at that moment she's thinking about Easter Sunday? I don't think so. I think she's processing a lot of despair and a lot of, where are you in this, God? Yet, in that moment, we have the hindsight to see the most glorious, amazing event on planet Earth, when every bit of grime in humanity was sucked onto the cross and dealt with there. Something amazing, something wonderful, something beautiful took place in the midst of that despair. Life, Christianity, it's complicated. It's a mix. But there's always joy. And there's always thankfulness. Because despite the best works of the enemy, we can be a thankful people. Come, let us sing for joy to the Lord. Let us shout aloud to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before him with thanksgiving for 2023 and extol him with music and song. Do you want to put them out? What I thought we could do as a response is, if you want to take a step of thanksgiving to the Lord for 2023 this year, come and write your name on this post-it note, and we're going to put it in the bowl at the foot of the cross. I don't want you to write what you're thankful for. Just write your name. And we're going to have a bowl of thankfulness to God for 2023 from the people of God in Tees Valley Community Church. So the band are going to be playing in a second. There's a little can I just talk? Yeah, I can't resist. How cheap are these? I couldn't find any of these. I ended up having to buy these. They're really small and cheap. But the thankfulness is just as real. So if you don't get one of these, don't worry. It's not second rate. The Lord sees your name. All right. So, yeah. So come forward when we start singing. Write your name on a post-it note. Put it in the bowl at the foot of the cross. And that's just a symbol. It's not voodoo. It's not spooky. It's just a symbol, an acknowledgement of our thankfulness to God despite the complexities of 2023.